My family left my 18-year-old daughter behind in a nation where it is illegal to travel without a passport. It was funny. My nephew chuckled. Her face should have been visible to you. I didn't shout, his sister added. I began to move. Security began hammering at their door the following morning. I did a double look when they eventually entered the resort lobby. My sister Kendra, my parents and her 2 children, Max and Savannah, were all there and unaccounted for. I'm laughing, talking as if this were just another trip. Rose wasn't with them though. My daughter, my 18-year-old. When I glanced again, I thought she would be following. Perhaps she would pause to get some water, go to the restroom, or do anything else. However, nobody turned around. Nobody brought her up. I could feel Darius, my husband, moving next to me. You also notice, Rose is where I inquired. Came out more sharply than I intended. Even though I was attempting to appear informal, I was already sitting up straight. Dad didn't even reduce his speed. Most likely she's on the following aircraft. The next flight, I said it again. Mom gave a hand signal. During the stopover, she misplaced her passport. The airport is a chaos. She's working things out. My chest paused for a moment. This is one of those times when your body senses a problem before your brain has had a chance to fully load the page. During the stopover, she misplaced it. Trying to maintain my voice even in London, I said. They all paused. That hesitancy that makes your stomach drop to the ground. Not quite, Dad responded. Darius moved next to me. What does that signify? Not exactly. Well, anything. We were cancelled from our initial flight. Brightly as if it were a playful twist, Mum said. However, your dad got us a better bargain. There are 2 layovers. We saved a ton of money. Not even the airline employees wanted to discuss it with us. However, your father pressed. I doubt they even posted it online. With pride, Dad added. Sudan was less expensive and quicker. Win-win. Darius blinked. Sudan. I turned completely to face them. Right now. You took a different route via Sudan. Dad gave a shrug. There were many of chairs. They also reimbursed us for the leg that was cancelled. We prevailed in the end. Furthermore, where did she misplace the passport? Even though I already knew, I asked. In Sudan, he said. You're joking. I glanced at each one, expecting to see a grin on their face. Isn't that a joke, quiet? Yes, I said again. Kendra appeared disinterested. Savannah was on her phone already. Max smiled and nudged her. When she realized, you should have seen her expression. Oh, he said. It was amusing. Savannah gave a snort. She went completely crazy, like a complete panic attack. I was afraid she was going to pass out. I regret not filming it. Max also said. She had the appearance of someone from a spoof video. I gazed at them. I couldn't decide whether the tone or the words astounded me more, as if they had found it amusing to watch someone drown. You abandoned her, silently I said. Really, you abandoned her? Mom folded her arms. We stayed with her. Her passport was gone. She is 18. She's not a baby, according to Dad. Kendra let out a sigh. This is being exaggerated by you. I'll take care of it, she said. Are you telling me, slowly I explained, that my kid had misplaced her passport in a prohibited area, and you abandoned her there by herself? She is intelligent. Mom said. That's what you always say. Now Darius moved forward. I could see the line in his jaw, yet his speech was calm. How come you didn't remain with her, one grown-up? The flight may have been missed if one of you had stayed behind. Dad seemed very perplexed. We've already arrived. What else should we have done? In the first instance, you were not meant to reroute through a high-risk nation. Darius said. We expected you to inform us, Kendra whispered. We didn't want drama. You've got it now. I fired back. I took out my phone and began making calls that went directly to voicemail. Darius also tried hers. Nothing, her phone could have died. Mom volunteered. We instructed her to remain close to the desk. What desk, I inquired. The one you left her at in the airport. Nobody responded to that. You always act as though she is dependent on you for survival. A small breath that nonetheless seemed louder than a scream was released by Darius. Without a passport embassy or local contact, she is by herself in Sudan. You also believe she could work her way out of that. At last, Savannah raised her gaze. In any case, she stated that she had no desire to travel through Sudan. She said that she would not stop talking about how dangerous it was. For example, we shouldn't be rerouting it since it is unsafe for women there. Max gave a snort. Her behavior was that of a baby. Perhaps she ought to remain there. She's more at home. I blinked. Just what did you say? Unconcerned, he looked up and smiled. Her father is black after all. She therefore blends in better than we do. Darius. Beside me, his arms stiffened. Kendra quickly took over. That was not his intention. Max said, I didn't say anything bad. She was freaking out over nothing, I'm just saying. Something broke inside of me as I looked at the boy, Kendra, and then my parents. Not too loudly, not like a vacation. It's more like a joint subtly moving out of place. It hurts, but it's so subtle that nobody initially notices. I faced Darius once more. I said, we're going to fix this. Now my voice wasn't tremulous. After giving me a single nod, he started looking up flights on his phone behind me. After us, Mum called. You don't need to cause a stir. I wasn't creating a scene though. Not just yet. Later on that would happen. Trying to earn decency from people who only gave me conditions as a child has been my entire life. My parents would have claimed that Kendra is simply expressive even if she had set the house on fire. In the meantime, I was once grounded for inquiring about what bourgeois meant at dinner. I must have been being arrogant. Adulthood should balance things out, but it doesn't. As a mother, the golden child glow-up persisted. After having Max and Savannah, Kendra was suddenly the brave single mother who gave it her all each time she yelled at a cashier or allowed them to eat candy for dinner. Mum would merely mutter, being a parent is challenging. My dad claimed that Rose was too sensitive when she was 4 years old and sobbed during a birthday celebration because she didn't want to hit the pinata. He told me you needed to toughen her up. I can't continue to spoil her. By the time Rose entered high school, she was receiving numerous honors. At the age of 17, the honor roll math club champion received a citywide science grant. Nevertheless, a family member would always reroute her whenever she succeeded. One time Mum said, that's great, but academicism isn't what you want. You ought to take up a sport as well, similar to basketball. She has asthma, has trouble coordinating, and is 5 feet 2. However, yes. Alternatively, my personal favorite is that while intelligence is good, it is not as good as being well-rounded. Max's first macaroni craft was framed like a gallery piece by the same people. The phrase, she was so mature for her age, was always accompanied by an asterisk. It implied that she was supposed to tolerate everything snicker at backhanded praise and take in remarks about how distracting her hair was or how sharp her voice was. My husband Darius Rose's father used to say that we were making things up and that we couldn't prove intent because it might not have been racism, but rather generational blindness. And because the alternative hurt too much, I held on to that for years. But now that I think about it, it was always there. I believed that they would see Rose for who she truly was and perhaps fall in love with her if we were kind and generous enough. I paid for the entire vacation because of this. The lodging, the food, the outings, and even the flights. I came up with the idea, a means of commemorating the business achievement. I'd arrived with Darius, and perhaps foolishly a means of bringing people together. I ought to have been more aware. To be safe, I asked them to search their bags after Rose failed to show up at the resort. I suggested that she might have accidentally obtained one of them by slipping her passport into someone else's backpack while going through security or getting trapped behind a tray table. Kendra gave an eye roll. Do you believe we hit it? No, I said cautiously. However, I believe it's worth looking into if there's even a remote possibility that it was packed accidentally. At first, they resisted displaying defensive and insulted behavior. We're not the enemy here, Dad likened it. But when I persisted, strange things happened. Kendra's 11-year-old son, Max, abruptly stopped looking at me. Savannah appeared to be trying to contain her laughter. Kendra went on to say that it was too late. What were you expecting us to do? I pivoted. What? She stopped. I didn't mean really, Dad interrupted. It's not like we anticipated this, which is the main point. Darius took a step forward. What does too late mean to you specifically? Nobody responded, so I did. Have you located her passport? Quiet, I felt my heartbeat in my ears. After she was unable to board, you discovered it. Nobody said anything yet. Like she was watching a movie, Savannah reclined on the couch. Max appeared to want to vanish all of a sudden. Max was the first to break. He muttered, I just hit it as a joke. She was being obnoxious. by claiming that Sudan was dangerous and that we would be abducted. I believe she should relax. My mouth became parched. Did she warn you it was dangerous? Yes, he claimed it was annoying that she kept searching on Google. Like, all right, we understand. This isn't Disneyland. Did you all know that I turned to my parents? Mum gave a hand signal. We believed her to be exaggerating. As usual, she doesn't act dramatic. With a low voice, Darius spoke. She is wary. He's intelligent. Without a passport, she is stuck in Khartoum at the age of 18. You're describing her as dramatic too. She had the option to visit the embassy. Flatly, Dad said. The United States has no embassy in Sudan. I lost my temper. After you left her, she most likely discovered that. It took guts for Kendra to roll her eyes. Legally, she is an adult. How were we to proceed? Because she was being challenging, I missed the trip. Darius gave her a blink. Indeed. Indeed, I repeated. You were meant to do precisely that. Nobody said anything. Then Max added in a useful way. When she realized it was funny, you should have seen her expression. Savannah gave a nod. She appeared to be about to cry. Darius moved as if to physically restrain me by putting himself between me and them. I felt my fingernails digging into my hands. My body's molecules all cried out to do something. A glass, the whole damn couch, I said. I didn't yell though. I said that very quietly. She doesn't act dramatic. Simply put, you are cruel. And then I left the room. Because if I stayed, I was going to break something. They think this is over, that she'll be fine, that we'll all move on. This was just a mix-up. But it wasn't, it was deliberate, it was ugly, and they're going to regret it. The moment we confirmed Rose's passport was in Kendra's bag. I stopped listening, but not because of shock. It included that. However, I was already in motion. Darius continued to gaze at the bag as though it had grown horns. Before takeoff, they located it. They knew, he said in a low voice. They left her there even though they knew she didn't have it. I remained silent. I simply pivoted and made my way back to the hotel suite. I turned on my laptop, went to the airline's website, and began looking up flight paths to Khartoum. One existed. 5 hours later, it was gone. Was it dangerous? Yes, but not as dangerous as abandoning our daughter overnight in a country where travel is prohibited without any paperwork, an adult, or assistance from the embassy. And there is currently no way to contact us. Leaning over my shoulder was Darius. You remain. I'll leave. As he spoke, he took his wallet out already. I refrained from arguing. He was correct. A young black woman by herself did not feel safe in Sudan. For me, though, it wasn't a great place either. Not if we needed someone to handle the fallout here in particular. We purchased tickets for him to return the next morning on a one-way flight. One for Rose and one for him. Time was running out. We still hadn't heard from her, and he had to depart shortly to complete check-in. I had made numerous attempts to reach her phone. There is no signal, no voicemail, nothing but quiet. I kept trying. I have no idea why. On the 9th attempt, as I was refreshing the airline confirmation page, I heard it ring, even though I kept expecting it to connect instantly. Then another. Next, Mum. I almost dropped the phone. Rose. God, oh God, are you all right, Rose? The breath on the other end was shaky. I have attempted to call. Nothing was functioning. The Wi-Fi shit. I can't get my SIM to connect. I had trouble getting anything to load. I believe that there was a problem with my phone. No. Now everything is all right. Your passport was located. Quickly, I said. Later I will explain. The fact that Dad is visiting you tonight is what matters. In a few hours, he will be departing by air. He's bringing it. Silence fell. Then silently. Have you located it? I shut my eyes. Yes. Kendra's bag. One more quiet. A sound I will never forget followed. She let out a tiny broken breath that sounded like grief and disbelief colliding in her throat. It was not lost. Then she spoke. I was aware. I claimed to have it. I advised them against taking a detour via Sudan. This is what I told them would occur. I know, I said. I think you're real. She didn't cry. Not at all. However, when she added, they said I was being dramatic, her voice broke. That my TikTok usage was excessive. Airports. The employees, however, didn't even want us there. At first, it wasn't even on the list of rebookings. After Grandpa caused a commotion, it became an option. He did, of course, I whispered. They laughed when I told them it wasn't safe. Max then advised me to calm down because I was frightening everyone. After that, I was unable to locate my passport. I gripped the edge of the desk until my knuckles went white as I leaned against it. But now you're at the airport, still in the terminal. Yes, they nearly made me leave sooner. I located a food stand and sat down, acting as though I was waiting for someone. I haven't relocated. It's strange, noisy, and disgusting. I was asked if I was married by a guy. My stomach turned over. One more offered to assist me in fixing it. That was it if I owed him a favor. I drew the laptop nearer, opened the portal for hotel reservations. Darius had already started packing. I finished waiting when I heard his suitcase zip up. He's on his way. Rose, keep going. He will arrive at the airport early tomorrow. You'll see him. Simply remain where you are. Don't appear to be by yourself. Keep your conversation to yourself. You did everything correctly. A pause occurred. Tell him to hurry, please. She couldn't see me, but I nodded. He's on the move already. I hung up and sat motionless for a few seconds, listening only to the low buzz of rage in my ears and the hum of the mini fridge. I then clicked to open the page for hotel group reservations. The first-star suite is still reserved. Then Kendra's suite. The family blocked my parents' rooms. I generously reserved it for cost because I thought this vacation would be good for us. Get rid of them all. Each and every one. They could work it out. There must be a clever way to reroute that as well. Darius came out of the restroom with his shaving kit. Did she sound all right? Despite her fear, she's managing to keep her composure. She is, of course. Oh, he said. He then turned to face my screen. What are you doing? I didn't raise my eyes. With a tight smile, he retracted my generosity. Do you need assistance? I gave a head shake. Not at all. I possess it. I had opened the portal for the return flight by the time he closed his bag and bid me farewell with a kiss on the forehead. Let's examine their true level of resourcefulness, because they could definitely figure out how to get home from Crete on their own dime if they could leave my daughter in Khartoum. Ideally, there should be 3 economy layovers without any legroom or snacks. Imagine your 18-year-old daughter alone in a dangerous foreign country, begging strangers for Wi-Fi, while her cousins laugh about how funny it was to watch her panic. If that sounds trivial to you, try this. Then, since we weren't even close yet, discuss petty matters with me. They had to return that night. Rose and Darius. Ever since he had stepped onto that plane, my heart had been racing. I tracked their flight all night long, constantly refreshing the screen until my thumbs ached. I didn't get any sleep. I didn't even take a seat. I was running on coffee and cold rage by morning. I heard it knocking at that point. Not just any knocking, the sort that reverberates through hotel corridors with tiled floors that concur and defy disregard. He was approaching my family's rooms from 2 doors down. I heard someone shout as soon as I entered the hallway. This is impossible. We have kids. Your reservation has been cancelled, sir, a cool voice said. The time for checkout is over. We will have to call the local authorities if you don't leave on your own volition. One more explosion followed by a child sobbing. Next, my mum. Something about this absurd overreaction made her voice brittle and self-righteous. I went back to my room and closed the door to stop myself from laughing, not to shut it out. The previous evening they had attempted to fabricate the story. My dad was knocking on my door as if I owed him money. My sister is furious. My mother at her best. We didn't raise your face like this. But as soon as they abandoned my daughter, they were already out of my mind. Like a joke, their passport was concealed in one of their bags. That was it. Family wasn't that. It was sabotage. They stomped up like toddlers in matching tantrums the night before. The lock rattled when my mother knocked. When I said no, I opened the door an inch, then another, then the entire way so I could see them. Without informing us, my mother hissed, "You cancelled the rooms." I wanted the front desk to deliver the news. Kendra crossed her arms. Even you would find that cruel. Cruel, I blinked. My daughter is being cruelly rerouted through Sudan and left in the transit area when she was unable to board. Her passport was gone. My father lost his temper. She remained composed. Flatly, I replied. Max accepted it. He located it. And you remain silent. So no, your vacation is not being paid for by me. We're all being punished by you. You all punished yourselves. I said. I simply stopped providing funding for it. As if I was still 15, my mother came forward to chastise me. I remained motionless. I didn't recoil. She said, "We have children with us." Savannah is in tears. Max feels frightened. "Will you actually pay for your own rooms or force us to switch hotels? I won't stop you." Kendra's expression contorted. That's it then. We're cut off after one mistake. One error. It nearly made me laugh. In order to save a few $100s, you diverted my daughter through a dangerous country. Then you concealed the fact that her passport was stolen by your son. Then you left her behind. Then you ridiculed her. That is all there is to it. They appeared to be expecting me to fold as they stood there in shock. "This conversation is over," I said instead. Returning to the morning, I closed the door. I could hear the manager's voice shouting more through the thin wall. "It has to do with policy." In an attempt to regain control, my dad's voice rose. I suppressed a laugh when I heard the word lawsuit. After a while, it became quiet. I discovered a message from Savannah in the hotel group chat when I opened it later that afternoon. "This new location is disgusting. No air conditioning and the beach is about 2 hours away. Please let us return." I needed the conversation. They also attempted to spin it to the family members. Naturally, the texts began to come in. "According to your mother, there was a miscommunication. What's happening? Is Rose all right?" I responded to each one in the same manner that they saved money by rerouting Rose through Sudan. Max concealed her passport. She became stuck. They abandoned her. Just the facts, no nonsense or background. The majority of responses were utterly silent. An aunt answered, "Yes, I didn't follow up." When you say the story aloud, I suppose it sounds different. Around 8:00 p.m., Darius and Rose returned. They and I met in the lobby. She appeared older. The same hair and face, but in some ways different. I gave her a strong hug. "Is there somewhere else we need to go?" she muttered. "We're not going anywhere," I said. We remained for an additional week, all three of us. By the beach, we enjoyed some fresh fish. The water we swam in was turquoise. Rose read novels in the sun and slept in late. Every time I stiffened at a message notification, Darius would rub my shoulders. None of them got a response from me. I stopped providing all financial support once we returned home. I kept it a secret. It wasn't a dramatic email that I wrote. I simply stopped. They made several attempts to contact me. Makes calls, guilt trips, texts that are passive-aggressive. I paid them all no attention. My mum tried to find out if we were still paying the insurance during tax season, and I told her that we weren't. Quiet. I confessed my guilt to Darius. "You understand what guilt is," he said. "It's the reverberation of boundaries that ought to have been established earlier." He was correct. What broke them more, I don't know. The fact that I never raised my voice while doing so, or that I stood my ground. However, that's the problem. I didn't have to yell. I simply took action. And I don't feel like the black sheep for the first time in my life. I feel liberated. I may have overreacted. Perhaps it was petty to cancel their flights and hotel. Or perhaps it was their only chance to experience even a small portion of what Rose did. What are your thoughts? Was it correct of me to end their trip in that manner? Or did I overreact? Tell me in the comments below. Your opinion would be greatly appreciated. Additionally, click the bell and subscribe if you would like to see more stories like this one. Story 2. Christmas is not a time for losers. My father mentioned my 18-year-old son, immediately after making fun of his backup medical school. "It's just embarrassing." I didn't yell, his cousin said. I did something. My parents called in a panic the following day. The wine, not the drinking kind, was the first thing that happened. Not just yet. The bottle, that is. As he entered the kitchen, my son held up. He was beaming as though his considerate holiday actions had earned him a Nobel Prize. At the third store, I got the last one. His cheeks flushed from the cold as he spoke. Grandpa's second favorite is this. They didn't have the typical one despite my 5 attempts. But I can go out again later. He felt a sense of pride. Proud of a mid-range red wine that most likely cost him more to buy than it did to buy. But the wine wasn't the point. It concerned its meaning. Inclusion. Show respect. Custom. He continued to believe that he was wanted. I had just ended the call. I was bracing myself with my hands still on the counter. I was still standing, not at all. His voice drifted toward me as if nothing had happened and I just stood there. However, something had. During that call, something inside of me had broken. It was something I hadn't experienced in years. Yes, rage, but there was something colder underneath it. Clarity. Who is my mother? Who made the call? When she's about to say something nasty, she always leads with an odd air of civility. Before the emergency crash landing, it was like a flight attendant grinning. "This year we've invited a lot of people," she said casually. "It will be very close. Very close. Perhaps your son could skip this one, we thought. Take a break. Just this year," she hurriedly said. "You're still welcome, of course. It isn't intimate." Not intimate. That's when I realized. Indeed it was. Then I heard the rest of them like some awful chorus of entitlement in Greek. In the background, my dad's voice is heard without even trying to be lowered. "Inform him that Christmas is not for losers." The fact that my mother shushed him made it even worse. "You can't say it that way then." That means he didn't stop, even though she knew it sounded awful. He intensified. "It's just embarrassing that he went to backup medical school." The voice of my nephew then came. That cousin, the one who pretended to be allergic to humility throughout his whole adolescence. Again, what is the name of his school, snorting with laughter? Okay, mediocre condition. Do they only have plastic skeletons, or do they even have cadavers? I wish I could claim to have hung up politely. I didn't. I simply pressed the red button and waited as if I had been disconnected. The words weren't the only thing. It was the ease with which they were uttering them, as if they were joking, which they had been doing behind our backs for some time. What's the worst? Not a word had reached my son. He had chosen a small box for my mother and was still wrapping it in cheap paper. It was, I believe, her favorite type. To make sure it arrived in time, he had ordered the same kind online 2 weeks prior. When he discussed it, his face brightened. He stated that they were nearly done with these 2. I nodded. It's funny how things disappear around Christmas. I may have blinked. To be honest, I can't recall. For what do you say to a child who still thinks that love is earned through hard work? I remained silent. Then no. I did what most mothers who are emotionally unstable do after realizing their parents are secretly terrible that night. I saw it when I was doom scrolling. My nephew, the golden boy, shared this meme. The person who attends that prestigious law school with tuition that could purchase a small island. In the meme, a toy doctor was seen setting up one of those toddler plastic kits. Read the caption. Crest Med graduates say things like, "I diagnose you with vibes." That's something I wish I were making up. His friends had also left comments. Other overgroomed, polished clones of prep school. It's not a legitimate school. I believe you can apply there if you have a dream and a library card. My dentist may have visited there. That clarifies a great deal. False doctors' degrees and schools. Then I noticed it. I think my dad had the post. I didn't just scroll past it or see it. It pleased him. Bravo. Supported. Something moved awkwardly inside my chest. Just shift, not break. Even now, my son was unaware that he was in his room. In that neat handwriting he inherited from no one in this family, most likely writing a Christmas card. Most likely expressing gratitude for always believing in me and myself. I was unsure of how to inform him that he was not even welcome at the table. That as he organized his gift bags, they were giggling behind his back. However, he was not invited. Not due to a head count or a lack of space, but rather because he hadn't chosen a school with an ego-boosting name. Despite calling him a loser, they somehow still anticipated my arrival. Grin, hand over the stuffing. Behind my ribs, I could feel the storm intensifying. No, I did not yell. However, I did act. They were the ones phoning me in a panic the following day. I once believed that taking on student loan debt was the worst thing I had ever done. Then I discovered that I had been sending money to the same individuals who had been disparaging my son behind his back on a monthly basis. However, we'll eventually comprehend what transpired during the previous Christmas season. You must first comprehend the type of family I come from. Our beliefs extended beyond education. We valued prestige. It was all about the name on your degree. Harvard might have provided a masterclass on boiling water. Additionally, my parents would have squabbled over seats. They both studied academic careers, worked in science, and thought about small offices, coffee-stained journals, and drawn-out arguments over journal articles. Despite their lack of wealth, they wore their degrees as if they were honors. They also anticipated that we would follow suit. In their eyes, my older brother is always 10 steps ahead of me, even though he is 3 years my senior. They said he was extraordinarily talented. All he needed was structure. And by structure, I mean academic summer camps, coaching programs, additional courses, and an endless supply of tutors. Nothing was too costly. Nothing was excessive. I was receiving tutoring for a competitive primary school entrance exam by the time I was 5 years old. Pop quizzes were at dinner and flashcards were on the refrigerator. I once pinned a laminated test schedule to the door of my bedroom. I'm serious. They didn't call it pressure. Support was the name of it. My brother's acceptance into a prominent law school was hailed as a family right. The email of acceptance was printed by my parents. It was framed, celebrated with a dinner that most likely exceeded the security deposit for my first apartment. They covered all of his expenses, including books, snacks, housing, and tuition. The investment was him. Then it was my turn. They said, "We'd love to help." But at the moment, things are a little tight. It's funny that by the time I reached the same milestone, the funds had been depleted. Nevertheless, they insisted that I attend that prestigious university. All they wanted was to avoid paying for it. "We'll assist you with your scholarship applications." My mum added that the loans my dad offered are completely normal. Also groceries, electricity, and a few other minor items. After that, it became more consistent. So I went. I accepted the loans. I put a lot of effort into my studies, I completed everything correctly, and I had more than $100,000 in debt when I graduated with a gleaming diploma. When the payments began, there was no applause. When the interest mounted, nobody volunteered to assist. I'm in my early 40s now, I work at a good job, I'm doing all right. I still have that debt though, similar to a second spine. Living on a salary, omitting things. Budgeting is challenging. Grinning despite everything. My parents told me they were having financial difficulties when they retired. Our savings were insufficient. "You know how it is in academia," they said. And I believed them because I was still trying to be a good daughter. At first, I only sent a small amount of money. Electricity, groceries, and a few other minor items. After that, it became more consistent. In my own life, I take shortcuts. I put off fixing my roof, skipped upgrades, and skipped vacations. I assumed it was the behavior of good daughters. I never thought they might be doing something else with that money. We will return to that. Let's discuss my son's upbringing. He never bought the fantasy from me. He was never informed that attending college was only valuable if it had a good name on a resume. I advised him to pick a course that he could afford and live with. I didn't want him to experience my ordeal. He also paid attention. He saw me strain. He heard how my voice changed when I checked my bank balance and how big it was at bell time. I know he saw it, but he never spoke. So, when college decisions came, he made his own quiet choice. He got into a big-name university, a school my parents would have lost their minds over. But he didn't tell them. He didn't want their input. He didn't want the pressure. Instead, he chose a local med school. Not top 10, not Ivy, but solid, reputable. He got a partial scholarship. He could live at home, no loans. I was proud not just of the acceptance, but of the wisdom in his decision. He chose peace over prestige. But to my parents, that decision made him an embarrassment. They couldn't see past the ranking. They couldn't hear the logic over the sound of their own egos cracking. It shouldn't have surprised me. Not when you look at how they treat my brother's son just 1 year older than mine. He's following in his dad's footsteps. Law school, big name, big price tag. He doesn't work, doesn't have to. My brother and his wife paid for private school test prep tuition. The works. He's smug, arrogant, and frankly unpleasant. But to my parents, he's the golden grandchild. They post about him online. Long captions, proud updates. They call him the next great mind. My son. They barely mention him. Maybe a throwaway sentence if I bring him up first. Every year my parents host Christmas dinner. It's always the same group. Family, old friends, academic colleagues, turned family, companions. It's tradition. And over the years I became close to many of them. So did my son. These weren't just my parents' guests. They were our people. He grew up sitting at that table calling them aunt and uncle, even when they weren't blood. They sent birthday cards about school and attended his concerts. He was recognized. He experienced love. It didn't feel like logistics when my mother called to let me know that there wasn't space for him this year. Rejection was the feeling, and I felt betrayed when I heard my dad call him a loser in the background. I used to believe that taking out a loan to get a diploma was the worst thing I had ever done. Perhaps it was the belief that my parents could change after all these years. That night, I didn't get much sleep. Not because I was depressed, not even due to my anger. I had already gone through those exit hours. Now I sensed something sharper or colder, like glass moving beneath my feet. I'd walked that tightrope between decency and compliance for years. However, I was put off by this. Meanwhile, during his first winter break in medical school, my son was in the living room reviewing anatomy as if it were a Netflix series. All I could think about as I stood in the doorway was, how in the hell do I tell him? How do you explain to your child that his own family believes he is not worthy of them, that he isn't invited? He didn't perform well enough for them, not because he did anything wrong. I took a seat on the other side of him. I have something to share with you regarding Christmas. He blinked. He held a pencil. I told him everything. The call, the background sounds, the words, the meme, and the laughter, as if he had said nothing. He simply listened. And he didn't cry when I was done. He didn't shout. He simply shut down the textbook, got up, and left for his room. Like a period, the door clicked shut. That was it. No, everything is all right. No, I'm not interested. Nothing but quiet. And no meltdown could ever make that hurt more. I spent some time sitting there. Allow it to hurt. I opened my laptop after that. A few weeks ago, there was a group email. The regular list had stopped when my mum sent it. Christmas dinner was the subject line. Verify your allergies, please. One person was vegan, one person avoided gluten, and another had a hazelnut allergy. I went over the list again, every one of the 18 names. I was aware of all of them. Although they weren't actually related, half of them were people I had known as aunt and uncle when I was a child. The others had been family friends for a long time, liked my son, sent him books when he was young, and gave him $10 Starbucks cards for his birthday. They had known me since I was a teenager. People, they weren't my parents. We owned them. I then grabbed the phone. There was no speech from me. I didn't run for office. I just made individual calls. We're not going this year, just so you know. My son was not invited by them. Although there are 18 confirmed guests, they claimed there was no room. The math is your responsibility. A few were taken aback. Some people didn't say anything. In fact, one person swore. Then there was a pause. The identical one. Every time people realize they're going to have to make a decision, they press that button. And the majority of them did. They picked us. 13 out of the 18 had contacted me by Christmas Eve. There will be an RSVP. This is not what we agree with. Your son is a member of the family. A few expressed regret, others didn't. Groveling wasn't necessary for me. All I wanted was the truth. I even received a separate text from my brother's wife. I was unaware that they had said that. I apologize. I'll be at yours. Keep it a secret from Mark. Mark, my brother, was left out. His son wasn't either. It wasn't petty, I assured myself. It was reasonable. I rose early on Christmas morning. It turns out that getting revenge takes a lot of preparation, so I did it not because I wanted to. I basted and roasted. I was more spiteful than origami ever meant when I folded napkins. For the most part of the day, my son was silent. I waved him away when he offered assistance. He probably realized that I needed this more than he did. The house was packed by 5 o'clock. Food moaned on the table. The lights were warm. The tree radiated as if it knew the secret. People came with gifts, wine, and hugs. That went on for 1 second too long. Regardless of the zip code, they told my son that they were proud that he had made it to medical school. They informed him that they recalled his third grade science fair project, the one with the safety goggles and the exploding volcano. He laughed at them. He felt seen by them. My phone then rang. Naturally, I gazed at the caller ID. I went outside to respond. Chilly air, peaceful porch. My hands from carving the turkey were still oily. What did you do? She lost her temper. No, hi there, don't be nice, just rage. You told them what the devil, to whom calmly I asked. Everyone. She gave a hiss. We prepared a meal for 18 people. 2 arrived. Your brother was one of them. It sounds like a calm night. I said, lots of leftovers. Caroline, this isn't funny. No, it isn't. Did you let them know that he wasn't invited? Did you don't invite him? That was not our intention. There was no room, you said. Not there, not for her, not for a loser. Correct. I said. Not for someone who picked a school where your friends wouldn't be envious. She fell silent. Then she said it. This family is being destroyed by you. I chuckled. Before I could stop it, it slipped out. The family is being ruined by me. I said it again. Your grandson wasn't fancy enough, so you told him to spend Christmas at home. No, we didn't say. You did. I ended the call. Not out of character, not furiously. The room was warm and noisy, and I had just returned inside. A board game had been brought out by someone. The wine was being refilled by someone else. A woman who used to babysit my son was laughing with him on the couch. He appeared fine. He appeared to be fine. And I did for the first time in a long time. I didn't speak louder. Even though I didn't act out, I made sure they heard me. The house was silent once more after the final visitor had left, and I had finished cleaning the gravy off the stovetop. However, the silence was different from what it had been. Something had changed irrevocably. Upstairs was my son. He paced, and I could hear it. Perhaps over the phone, but perhaps not. All night long he had been silent. He had thanked everyone with a smile. However, beneath it, I could see that the wound was still open, but no longer bleeding. With my hands wet, I stood at the sink and gazed out the window. After that, I grabbed my phone, launched my banking app, and selected the automatic transfer that I had been making to my parents each month. What's funny, you're not even blinking. I simply hit the cancel button. No farewell speech or ceremony, just finished. For a while, I believed I was being a good daughter. They had retired. I was stable but not wealthy. They also claimed that their pensions were not very generous, so I quietly and steadily helped. Although it wasn't much, it was sufficient to pay their bills. Now, however, they didn't need my assistance, if they could afford to make fun of my son. Not emotionally, not financially, and not at all. I meant it too. I received the notification 3 days later. In the chat room for the larger family group, my mother had shared something. The big one, not the private one for pictures and birthdays. Look at how well-functioning we are. Talk to second cousins, extended family, and those who believe that every prayer that is forwarded is intimate. The post was brief and consisted of this caption and a cropped photo of her largely empty dinner table. Some people are unaware of the consequences of spoiling Christmas. They should be proud of themselves, I hope. No names, only poison. After staring at it for a while, I put my phone away, brewed some tea, and returned 10 minutes later. Responses were already available. A couple of question marks. What transpired with a Florida cousin? In response, one of my dad's sisters used a passive voice. It's very unfortunate. I refrained from arguing. I just made 3 posts. First, a screen grab of the meme shared by her golden grandson, the person who makes fun of my son's medical school. Read the caption. Med students who graduated from Crest said, "I diagnose you with vibes," and my father is right underneath it, which I like. A line I typed myself came in second. Just memory, no screenshot. What my father said during the call in the background. Christmas is not a time for losers. Third, a concluding statement. My son was never welcome, just to be clear. They made that decision. I then set my phone aside. I was not present when the mayhem broke out. I didn't have to. Later that evening, however, my inbox was overflowing. No excuses, just silent support. A couple of short messages. I appreciate you saying something. Us. We didn't know. Not a word from my folks. Nothing but quiet. I didn't see them for nearly 2 weeks. No call, no warning. One Wednesday afternoon, there was only a knock on the door. I froze as I opened it while holding a half-full laundry basket. They pretended nothing had happened as they stood on my front step, as if this visit was social. My mother was the first to speak. We decided it was time for a conversation. I remained motionless. Discuss what I recognized her brittle, taut smile all too well. Let's avoid making this situation worse. We simply wish to make things clear. Make the air clear, I repeated. My father moved next to her. This family is being ruined by you for no reason. No apology was offered, not even a shred of regret. As usual, it was just projection. We've always been there for you, he continued. This is unfair. Slowly, I put down the laundry basket. You laughed while excluding him from what should have been a family-oriented holiday. My mum winced. That's not how we meant it. Regardless of your intention, I stated that you had enough heart to say it, and you allowed everyone else to laugh about it as well. She said, "We didn't think it would be taken so seriously." Then you might have been better off not saying it at all. I took a step back and closed the door before she could open her mouth again. Closed from done, not slammed. I refrained from crying. I didn't feel bad and I didn't shake. Not by any means. Another knock came 3 days later. When I opened the door, I saw Amazon, my nephew, and the very Mr. Mimi poster trying to look modest while sporting an expensive coat and a smug expression. He said, "Hey, can we have a conversation?" I rested my weight on the doorframe. "What is it about?" He shrugged sheepishly. "Simply put, I think things got out of control. I had no intention of it blowing up this way. No, calling your cousin a fake doctor and making fun of his school wasn't your intention." He flinched. He was a farce. It seemed clear to me. I crossed my arms. If it was that clear, why have you come here now? He hesitated, then unconsciously gave it away. Since they were providing me with financial support. You are aware. If you cut them off, then sure. I gazed at him. Hold on. Slowly I said, "Do you mean the cash I sent, the assistance I believed was keeping them afloat?" He paused. "Was it directed at you?" He didn't respond. He was not required to. My chest began to heat up, but I didn't blow up. I didn't have to. "You believe that you and them were involved in this. But they used my assistance to boost your ego and embarrass my son with it," I said. He whispered, "I didn't ask for that money. However, you certainly spent it, didn't you?" He didn't respond. I could hear my son moving in the kitchen behind me. I wished he would not approach the door. This was unnecessary for him to see. I then looked at my nephew. A single hand on the door. "Get out," I whispered, "and don't return." He opened his mouth to speak. Maybe I apologized in some way, but I closed the door. Not a showy speech. Don't run away. Only a peace and a locked door. In years for the first time. A few years have passed since then. My brother and I still don't communicate with our parents. And, surprise, surprise, the golden nephew, my son is progressing well. He is still a medical student, thriving. She has already scheduled a few interviews and has just begun applying for internships. He is calm and determined. He will become a fantastic doctor. What's the best part? He had no student loan debt to worry about. My nephew left his esteemed law school before graduating, I learnt the other day through rumors. Not a degree. There was only a trail of lost tuition money in his wake. Apparently there were problems with discipline. Something about insulting other students during a group project while intoxicated. In an attempt to complete something, he is now applying to nearby colleges. Of course, not the one my son attends. He wouldn't even have the courage. This one is ranked a few spots lower. I have no idea what broke him. I don't know if I should. However, I occasionally question if I was overly sentimental that Christmas. Was rerouting the entire guest list too much, or was it just far enough? Tell me in the comments below. Additionally, hit the bell and subscribe if you haven't already. Story 3. My sister and parents made my 11-year-old daughter clean their house for 5 hours as a dare while I was working double shifts at the hospital. Then, without dinner, they sent her to bed. I didn't shout. This is what I did. They were the ones cleaning the floor and panicking 9 days later. I left the night shift with a headache that had taken up residence behind my right eye like rent money and legs that felt like half-cooked spaghetti. I just wanted to get my daughter Mia get into bed and, maybe with luck, pass out without having to dream about buzzing monitors or patient charts. My sister Rachel opened the door and waved as if we were best friends before I had even pulled into the driveway. With a travel mug in hand, she bounced down the stairs and said, "They had a blast yesterday." Complete moment of bonding. When you hear it, you will laugh. The first warning sign was that. In the 38 years that I've known Rachel, I've never found anything she found funny. Grinning, I parked and got out. Because when your jaw is clenched with suspicion, that's what you do. What sort of bonding, I inquired. Oh dear, just a dumb family game. Cards. It became somewhat competitive, but Mia was determined to participate. There was something in the way she stated it, as if Mia had pushed her way into inappropriate fun. Made my stomach turn. Rachel leaned in as if she were going to say something funny. To be honest, you ought to try it at the medical facility. I've never seen a child clean baseboards so quickly. My smile faded. She was doing some cleaning. Rachel chuckled. Only her challenge, not a huge deal. She is in the guest room, most likely still recuperating from her extreme cleaning habit. Without saying another word, I made my way to the house. The scent of lemon cleaner and something slightly sour like perspiration left in a shirt for too long filled the guest room. Mia was already dressed and seated on the edge of the pull-out couch. Her knees were encircled by arms. She pulled the sleeves of her hoodie past her hands. When I walked in, she tried to smile and looked up. "Hello, Mum." She didn't appear to be a child who had a great time. "Are you prepared to go home?" I inquired. She gave a nod. Yes, but she remained seated. She simply sat there as though she were bracing for something or waiting for it. I took a seat next to her. "Are you all right?" She paused. "May I ask you a question?" "Well, kind of stupid." In a game of dare, she gazed at the floor. "Is receiving chores that resemble actual ones normal?" I spoke in a light tone, depending on the type of chores. I swept the kitchen and the stairs. The windows too, as well as the sink in the bathroom. Oliver's room too. That was the third round. He claimed that his gaze was engaged in a video game. I blinked. "While your cousin was playing a video game, you cleaned his room." "It was a time-based challenge," he said. In order to keep my thoughts to myself, I bit the inside of my cheek. "All right," I said slowly. "There is a lot of cleaning involved." All those cards were drawn by him. Each time she nodded. Despite their claims that the cards were chosen at random, I won every time. "What is the number of rounds 5? 6, perhaps?" I gave up counting. The others, and my throat constricted, fun things, such as talking in rhymes, jumping on the bed, and putting socks on their hands. Oliver was forced to pose as a spy. He made a walkie-talkie out of a banana. He did, of course. She smiled weakly. I had to do it every day, they said. I pleaded to join without skipping a beat. I replied, yes. Not playing was something I didn't want to be the only one doing. A chilly knot started to form in my chest. I had previously seen it. Permission masquerading as compliance. I grabbed her hand. I became aware of the blister at that point, raw, angry right under her thumb. Did you let anyone know that this was painful? Losing was not what I wanted. I took a deep breath. What was the most recent assignment? The visitor restroom. Although I didn't finish the floor, I completed the majority of it. The sponge continued to slip. She glanced down once more. I didn't win, they said, if I didn't finish. I also didn't get dinner if I lost. I went cold. Didn't you eat? She gave a head shake. In my bag, I discovered a granola bar. It was from last week, I believe. She spoke as though she was pleased with herself for finding a solution. I was sitting motionless. I feared I would scream downstairs if I moved. My mother was using the sink to rinse mugs. With her legs tucked up on the couch as if she lived there, Rachel was scrolling through her phone. What she did? Hello? Trying not to sound like I was containing a tidal wave, I said. Shall we discuss the dare game? Rachel became alert. Did she tell you it was hilarious, wasn't it? She claimed to have spent 5 hours cleaning the house. All right, not the entire house. Only she dares. And not 5, perhaps no more than 4. Rachel, she gave an eye roll. She desired to participate. We forewarned her. Don't back down. You ought to have seen her. She was interested in it. Oliver was playing a game when she cleaned his room. It was a bold dare. It was based on time. She received a high dusting score. I believe I glanced at my mother. For all of this, you were present. She appeared content. My mother said, avoiding eye contact. She desired inclusion. She's got a blister. I said, Rachel gestured with her hand. One small blister, please. Take a look at what my children do in gym class. Develops character. The meal as well. She did not complete the final gaze. The rule was that. I gazed at her. If she didn't thoroughly clean your bathroom floor, you made her think. She wasn't worthy of food. She accepted the guidelines. I had one sharp, humorless laugh. As a child, I used to wonder how you managed to get away with making me clean your room. I suppose I've finally worked it out. Rachel looked up. What's wrong with you? It was a game. I grinned. Are you now referring to it by that name? She grinned. I'll tell you the secret if you're nice. Don't refer to it as a chore. Consider it a challenge. Before I broke anything, I gave a single nod, pivoted on my heel, and left through the front door. Maya was already securely fastened. I took a while to start the car. Was I foolish to think it was a game, she asked, glancing at me. I told them no, but they were foolish to assume I would overlook it. And I meant it because they were the ones scrambling and cleaning the floor 9 days later. It was formerly known as the Sister Code. Rachel recited it as if it were scripture, even though it was never written down. The chores are done by good sisters. Good sisters take care of one another. Good sisters are not gossips. She was 12 and I was 7. I was unaware at the time that code was simply another word for trap. She once persuaded me that sharing toilet cleaning duties was a revered family custom. It was something our grandmother had done for her sister. Our great-grandmother, apparently. It took me several months to discover that Rachel had created the entire concept. When I brought it up, Grandma almost choked on her coffee, but I had already cleaned the toilet twice by then. That marked the start of a lengthy pattern. Rachel was dubbed clever by my parents. I was referred to as emotional. She would conceal items cause damage, place the blame on me, and then observe the performance from a distance. I never touched her diary, but I was once grounded for stealing it. She simply pointed at me while concealing it behind the couch. "You must have accepted it," she said, her eyes wide. When Caroline lies, she always acts guilty. I told the truth. I was simply guilty all the time. In their view, anyway. My mother would say, "Oh, honey, you have to toughen up," whenever I sobbed. I believed I was free of it by the time I moved out. I was awarded a scholarship, became a nurse. I fell in love with a man who paid attention to what I had to say. I created what appeared to be a typical life, calm, steady, and devoid of tricks masquerading as affection. I made a self-promise that things would be different after Mia was born. No guilt, no games. No sister code, stuck obedience. The amusing aspect of generational patterns, however, is how silently they await the next opportunity. If you don't burn the bridge behind you, that is. And I didn't. Not entirely. The home where I grew up was still occupied by my parents. Rachel did the same. She was never gone. Not at all. She remarried, got divorced, had 3 children, and made a long list of excuses. Multi-generational harmony, she said. I thought I was out of it by the time I moved out, so I called it cheap rent. I was awarded a scholarship, became a nurse. I fell in love with a man who paid attention to what I had to say. I created what appeared to be a typical life. Calm, steady, and devoid of tricks, masquerading as affection. I made a self-promise that things would be different after Mia was born. No guilt, no games. No sister code, stuck obedience. The amusing aspect of generational patterns, however, is how silently they await the next opportunity. If you don't burn the bridge behind you, that is. And I didn't. Not entirely. The home where I grew up was still occupied by my parents. Rachel did the same. She was never gone. Not at all. She remarried, got divorced, had 3 children, and made a long list of excuses. Multi-generational harmony, she said. I manipulated it by calling it cheap rent. Like their mother, her children, who were 11, 13, and 15, were boisterous, gregarious, and oddly skilled at acting innocent. Maya held them in high regard. She was the only child I had. Less noisy, thoughtful, kind of like I had been, minus the trauma. She enjoyed baking, drawing, and spending time with children who gave her a sense of belonging, which naturally made her the ideal target. She was upset the first time she returned home from a weekend spent with them. She claimed that she lost a game as the reason. What kind of game? I asked. She paused. She claimed that they were posing as spies. And since I joined the last, I had to be the bad guy. Did you wish to play the bad guy? He gave a shrug. There had to be someone. Additionally, I had the opportunity to mop the hallway. That was my evil scheme. I felt sick to my stomach. She then shifted the topic, though. Informed me of the cookies. Mum allowed her to bake. Claimed to be all right. She always claimed to be all right. On another occasion, she returned with her arms covered in markers. She clarified that they said it was a tattoo there, similar to initiation. I gazed up and down her forearms at the juvenile scrawls. But why just you? They had already completed theirs. She spoke too hastily. If she had fun, I asked. She hesitated. In a way, all I want is their approval. I pondered whether I was exaggerating as I lay awake that night. All right. I could hear my mother's voice in my mind. Caroline, stop being so dramatic. You're always reading too much into things. I decided to let it go. I regret doing so. The cleaning incident occurred 1 week prior. While the others were outside, Maya called me softly on the kitchen phone. The dare game is being played once more, she muttered. Do you also play no? They said, I must first earn it. How, I'm not sure. They're still making a decision, Tyler said. If she wanted me to come get her, I asked. No, she said. I inquired about her well-being. He acknowledged, but she claimed to have assisted when I questioned what she had done that day. Grandma was waiting, so she arranged the pantry. It was her turn. She waited for her turn to be humiliated and permitted to join. I ought to have gone to pick her up. Rather, I completed my night shift. She was safe with family, I told myself. Right now, the word tastes like acid in my mouth. Mia simply blinked at me when I informed her that the game was rigged. No, she said, I don't think so. I was allowed to shuffle. That was more painful than I had anticipated because it indicated that she still believed that justice could be served in that home, and that she would be accepted if she shuffled hard enough, smiled enough, and cleaned enough. I didn't say that though. I sat down beside her and requested that she go over everything with me again, starting at the beginning. Thinking peso, she bit her lip. We played in groups of 6. Grandpa, Aunt Rachel, and none of the 3 cousins participated in the first round. He did, of course. And the rule was that you had to follow through on your dare. You can't back down or you're out. Which dares were among them? I inquired. She began tapping her jeans while listing her fingers. A dance had to be made up by Tyler. A fast food restaurant had to be prank called by Lila. Oliver was required to spend 10 minutes playing his preferred video game. A spoon had to be balanced on Rachel's nose. How about you? I vacuumed the hallway, cleaned the stairs, cleaned the windows, and then arranged the shoes. Next, tidy Oliver's room. My throat constricted. I said, that's 5 rounds. And you were all 5 chores. She gave a nod. Did you think that was strange? He gave a shrug. I attributed it to bad luck. I remained silent for a while. Then, I inquired about the time you spent tidying Oliver's room. What was he doing? I could see it in her face, even though she didn't respond. At last, he understood. I returned to the house by car the following morning. I kept my arrival a secret from everyone. I didn't knock. I used the spare key to gain entry. They had not bothered to properly hide yet. There was nobody in the living room. The kitchen was no exception. I opened the cabinet containing the Dare game board games, puzzles, and decks of cards. It appeared sufficiently innocent. Rubber bands were used to hold together a homemade deck. The handwriting on each card was neat and colorful. Slowly I turned through it. Move to the yard and dance. Act like you're a dog. Sing your favorite tune. Clean the stairs. I flipped that one over. The upper left corner had a tiny dent in it. Hardly noticeable unless you search for it. There the paper felt rough, as if it had been brushed up against something. Continued. Clean the windows. Same scuff. The corridor should be vacuumed. The toilet was just cleaned. There were 2 scratches on that one. I spread out every card on the coffee table. 35 steps. 13 of them involved cleaning duties. Each of the 13 was marked. The enjoyable ones weren't. I photographed each and every one of them, both sides. I then put the deck back in its original configuration, got up and went to the refrigerator, opened a soda, sat down again and bided its time. With her arms full of groceries, Rachel entered first. When she saw me, she first appeared surprised and then irritated. "Why are you here?" she inquired. "For you, I have a game." I said. Her eyes narrowed. What a challenge for fun only. I indicated the cards. Select one for amusement. I'll continue to assist with the mortgage. Let me double it. However, I cut everything if it's cleaning. She laughed. That is foolish, is it? She folded her arms. All of them are cleaning dares. Of course. I cocked my head. Are they? She didn't respond. Because there's only one way to know that, unless you're psychic. I grinned. Which cards are which? You know. She became aware of her words too late. I bent over. They have a mark. You stacked the deck so you knew exactly what Mia was doing. She remained silent. My mother entered and scowled. What's happening? I looked over at her. Oliver sat playing video games while your granddaughter cleaned his room for a dare. That's the situation. Oh, hurry up, she said. It was only a game. It was a setup, I said. As if I were exaggerating, my mother rolled her eyes. All right, she claimed that they were merely having fun. She wasn't coerced. She is 11 years old. I lost my temper, and you saw it take place. I stared at him. You're turning nothing into something significant. When Rachel lied when I cried, or when Mia was left out, they always shrugged their shoulders. That practice tone was flat, as if I were the one being challenging. All right, I didn't speak again. I got up, grabbed my phone, gave the cards one last look, laid out like an autopsy, and walked out of the house without turning around. 00153709 00. While the other children had fun ones, Mia pulled 5 toddlers in a row. 13 cleaning bears were discovered in the deck. On the back, each of the 13 was marked. The enjoyable ones weren't. She had been set up. While adults looked on, she was coerced into working for 5 hours and told she couldn't eat because her cleaning wasn't up to par. For the sake of clarity, 001556 0500 16 20 27 is attached, not sure. Just some clarity. You can't take advantage of my daughter and still get paid. I kept it a secret. No lengthy messages about boundaries or angry texts. Simply stopped. Silence, however, has a voice. My phone was ablaze with passive-aggressive smoke signals by Monday morning. Did you forget again, Rachel, or did the payment bounce? Call me urgent, please. Rachel. Whoa. You're actually severing your own ties to your family because of a card game. Do you require assistance? Then the family group chat appeared. The large one. The one with aunts, cousins, and other family members who only communicate twice a year. Except in the case of gossip. Rachel is among the group. Mom and Dad are no longer being supported by Caroline. She has apparently chosen to punish everyone because she is upset about a game Mia played, merely informing people of the situation before rumors begin to circulate. The side remarks started coming in right away. Lisa, my cousin. Really? That seems excessive. Uncle Rob is playing a game. Hurry up. As I sat there reading in silence, I allowed the version that made me appear insane to grow. I then let go of the pictures. I said very little. For those who are curious, Caroline, this is just a brief clinical post. While the other children received enjoyable ones, Mia pulled 5 toddlers in a row. 13 cleaning bears were discovered in the deck. On the back, each of the 13 was marked. The enjoyable ones weren't. She had been set up. While adults looked on, she was coerced into working for 5 hours and told she couldn't eat because her cleaning wasn't up to par. For the sake of clarity, the front and back photos of each dare were attached. The youth, the patterns, the scratches. Then it started. Lisa, my cousin. Hold on. What, Uncle Rob? It's repulsive, Aunt Marcy. My apologies, Caroline. I didn't know. James, a cousin. That's not a game, man. That is simply cruel. The likes came in one after the other. Rachel's supporters fell silent. She didn't answer. Not among the group. Not in private, absolutely not. However, I could imagine her reading it and observing the change in the tide. Observing those who once nodded in agreement turn away. Excellent, give her that to sit with. Allow her to consider how simple it was to control a youngster who merely desired acceptance. And how hard it will be to control me now. Since I'm finished. Funding them is complete. I'm done being nice. I'm done acting like this was a simple miscommunication. And Mia is no longer crying. He also saw the pictures. He observed the reactions. And I believe she finally grasped what they did for the first time. Wasn't her fault. She won every game. They lost a decent child. And I have only just begun. 2 days had passed. They were all 4 on my front step. Lee, Tyler, Layla, Pulver. Layla appeared ashamed. Tyler appeared irritated. Oliver's eyes were fixed on the floor. Rachel grinned as if nothing had gone wrong. To apologize, we came. I said, she said. Children, huh? They muttered it one by one. I apologize, apologies, yes, apologies. They didn't have to say it directly, and they couldn't even look at me. Their faces showed it to me. They were aware of the game's manipulation. They allowed her to clean even though they knew exactly what they were doing. I folded my arms. You ought to tell Mia that. She's inside. Leaning in already, Rachel asked. When she's ready, she will come out. After a minute, Mia came up behind me, calm, steady. All right, she said. If you clean our house the way I cleaned yours, I'll forgive you. Everything. Oliver also gets to clean my room. The floors. Horrible. Very sticky. Oliver turned pale. They gave me a look. I gave a nod. Rachel said, okay, after opening and closing her mouth. It was magic for the next 5 hours. As Layla scrubbed the toilet downstairs, she gagged. While vacuuming corners, he was unaware of Tyler muttered grumbles. After learning about the horror that is a preteen girl's sock drawer, Oliver came out of Mia's room, ghost-faced and sweating. Rachel got Windex in her eye while cleaning the windows. I didn't chuckle aloud. like a queen in fuzzy slippers Mia oversaw. I prepared popcorn. I can honestly say that it was the best afternoon I've had in a long time. When they were finally done looking tired, flushed and blotchy, Mia just said, "Okay, I forgive you," to them. Rachel exhaled as though she had been suppressing it for the past 2 weeks. Then she turned to face me. "So, we're all right now. Will you resume the support?" I arched an eyebrow. What kind of assistance? The mortgage, the groceries, the camping trip. "Oh," I said. "No, we apologized," but she blinked. "We did some cleaning." I forgive you," I said. I also said muted. "However, forgiveness does not imply that I support your way of life." She gazed at me. I returned the stare. For a few beats there was silence. Then, like a vanquished conga line, her small troop filed out after she collected her purse and muttered something I missed. I closed the door after them. I locked it, flipped around. With her remote in hand, Mia was already sprawled out on the couch. "What do we see?" I inquired. She mentioned something involving explosions. I threw a blanket at her and sat down with her on the couch. "Excellent. I want to see everything fall apart." We didn't discuss the events of that day again. It was over, so we didn't have to, and the cards were in our hands for once. 8 months have gone by. We are now in low contact. In a technical sense, they haven't gotten back to you, most likely because they are aware that I will no longer be supporting their chaos. According to what I've been told, Rachel started a part-time job that she despises, and the family has been having trouble paying the bills. It doesn't keep me up at night. Mia is doing well, actually more than fine. Compared to most adults, I know she has more defined boundaries. Additionally, she has a room of her own where no one dares to assign tasks. Personally, I still occasionally work double shifts. However, there isn't any manipulation, guilt-tripping, or games when I get home. Just peace and quiet. Tell me though if I went far enough or too far. Tell me in the comments below. Remember to subscribe if you would like to see more stories like this one.